All right, let's just jump right in. I want you to picture something. Humanity has finally made it to Mars. We're there. But you gotta forget the Hollywood version, you know? Forget all the action sequences and the instant, miraculous terraforming. Let's think about what the day-to-day reality would actually feel like. You are living in a pressurized tin can, millions and millions of miles away from a blue sky, from a real breeze, and outside those walls, just absolute, deafening silence and a darkness that feels like it could crush you. It is, quite literally, the ultimate pressure cooker.
And the biggest threat you're facing up there isn't the cold or the radiation. Nope, it's the silence inside your own head. And it's that inevitable friction that comes from living in a tiny, confined space with the exact same people, day in, day out, possibly for the rest of your life.
So that's the question, right? How do you stop that pressure cooker from just imploding? Well, the sources we're digging into today have a really fascinating answer. They say the key isn't just better hardware, it's about the software. Specifically, a kind of social technology that's imagined as this incredible musical project called the Five Secular Reverances. So this whole musical suite was composed for a fictional place, the Cathedral of Olympus Mons, which is part of the Martian Church of Kindness. Now, I know what you're thinking, but the sources are really clear. Don't get hung up on words like church or cathedral. This has nothing to do with traditional religion or worship. They describe this church as a piece of critical infrastructure. I love this analogy. Think about it like this. You build a radiator to keep the temperature in a room stable, right? Well, you build this church to keep social trust stable. It's a tool built not from metal, but from ritual and shared values.
And this slide just nails the concept. The oxygen scrubbers, the water recyclers, that's all the hardware you need to survive. But the ritualized trust, the shared virtues, that's the software that runs the whole system. And without that software, the best hardware in the universe is totally useless.
So here's the bottom line, and it's a huge one. On Mars, if social cohesion breaks down, people die. It's that simple. Forgetting to check a seal isn't just rude, it's an existential threat. So kindness stops being this, soft, optional skill, and it becomes a crucial piece of engineering, a technical survival mechanism. And the five secular reverences, well, they're the soundtrack to that very survival. We're talking 5 pieces of music: serendipity, promise, reflection, appreciation, and community, that basically act as a sonic guide for how to stay human on a completely hostile world. So let's break them down, starting with the first one.
Okay, reference number 1 is called serendipity, and the music itself tells the story here. You have this massive wall of sound, 16 violas and cellos just playing these long, droning notes. That's the universe. It's immense, it's indifferent, it's just there. And then against that huge backdrop, you have just 2 violins, tiny, searching, darting around. That's us. That's the tiny, fragile spark of the human mind trying to find a path through all that emptiness.
But, hope alone doesn't keep the oxygen flowing, which brings us to reverence number 2, promise. And this piece totally redefines the word. On Mars, a promise isn't some guarantee that everything's going to be okay. No, it is a contract. It's a commitment to the boring, slow, absolutely essential work of maintenance that keeps everybody alive. And the music sounds completely different. The strings are gone. Now we're in what's described as a world of reeds. The sound is almost subterranean, like enclosed air or recycled breath. And it moves at this super slow, almost glacial pace, It reflects that slow, heavy labor of checking seals and changing filters. It's the sound of safety. It's the sound of a system that's working because everyone is keeping their promise. So with serendipity, we've looked out at the universe. With promise, we've looked at the machinery. Now, the whole cycle pivots inward. Reverence 3, reflection, is described as the keystone of the whole thing. It's about checking in with ourselves, with our shared humanity. The music here is really interesting. It's built with 10 different vocal parts that create what the sources call planes of thought. The goal is something called lucid ambiguity, which basically means the music is really clear about one thing, that things are unclear. It doesn't give you easy answers. Instead, it just creates this space to acknowledge that things aren't perfect, that we make mistakes, which is absolutely vital for staying sane under that much pressure. Okay, so after turning inward, we turn our attention back out to the world with reverence 4, appreciation. And again, this isn't just about being thankful. On Mars, appreciation is defined as survival-grade attentiveness. It's the critical skill of noticing things, noticing the change in an engine's hum or the change in a crewmate's mood.
And the music actually teaches you this skill. It's played on 3 keyboards, and it's described as hovering. It just kind of refuses to move forward. It forces you to just stop and dwell on the textures of right here, right now. Because in a place where entitlement is literally fatal, where wishing for fresh air will only make you miserable, this music reinforces a powerful mantra for survival. It is enough.
And that brings us finally to reverence number 5, community. Now, you'd probably expect music about community to be, well, perfectly harmonious, right? All singing together in perfect chords. But the sources argue that's just propaganda. Real community is messy. So this music is complex, it's chromatic, it's even got dissonant parts because it represents the reality of all these different voices and backgrounds, sometimes clashing. And what I absolutely love is the story behind this piece. Apparently, it started out as just an informal folk song, something the colonists would play in the mess halls after a long shift. It's joyous, it's dance-like, and it grew from the bottom up, which is perfect, right? It proves that real community isn't something that's ordered from the top down. It's built organically through shared experience.
So when you put it all together, you realize this isn't just 5 pieces of music. It's a complete sonic blueprint for how to build a resilient society from scratch, designed specifically for the harshest place we can imagine. Let's just walk through that journey one more time. First, you accept your tiny, fragile place in this vast universe. Then, you commit to the relentless, hard work it takes to just stay alive. You take a moment to pause and reflect on your own humanity. You learn to pay attention and appreciate the world as it is, not as you wish it were. And finally, you get to celebrate the messy, joyful, and totally necessary reality of depending on each other. So, it's a really cool thought experiment. But what's the big takeaway? For us, back here on the planet with free air and blue skies, what's the point? Well, the central lesson is that social trust is a form of technology. You can have the most brilliant engineering in the entire galaxy, but if the people inside that machine don't trust each other, the whole colony fails. These rituals of kindness, they're the software that makes all the hardware actually function. And that really is the core idea. We rely on this exact same invisible software, this social technology of trust and maintenance and community every single day of our lives. We just take it completely for granted because the air is free and the stakes don't feel quite so high. But our communities are just as fragile, and they run on the very same principles. So, that kind of leaves us with a final question to think about. If you were designing a liturgy for your own survival, in your city, in your job, with your family, what would your secular reverences be? What are the rituals of kindness and maintenance that keep your world from flying apart?
That's it for this explainer. Thanks for diving in with us today.